All right, welcome to the channel where we're going to explore this phenomenal game of life that's sometimes chaotic and hopefully guide us to some calmer waters. But today I was kind of guided to talk about our crystalline body. And maybe you've heard it on some of the spiritual networks, but like, oh, the 5D is going to be crystalline in nature. Well, I would like to say that we're already there. So, our crystalline bodies, if you want to look at it, maybe from the whole, I do have a couple props. Not necessary to see them, but we take this fine crafted crystal. This one is glass, but a bit of work went into it to make it polished and look the way that it does. To me, glass really doesn't feel like it does a whole lot, but it is pretty. So I have some other crystals that I kind of wanted to explain a little bit about. But one of the reasons I feel that we're already a crystalline body was I was doing a past life regression. If anybody's ever tried one, um, you go through a past life and you kind of are guided through to experience what it was like in that life, what you were doing. I was kind of looking for, what is it? Why am I here? What are the things I'm doing here? And I was guided to this one life. And in particular, I would say it was probably in the 40s or 50s, but had a car accident and drove the car off into the water and I drowned. So from that point, I could see that other people were missing me and things of that nature, which is fine. But I went to, after that, they say, okay, you can go to heaven now, or you can go to the next place. And I went to what I would like to say would be like a heavenly state, and everything around was crystals, like the grass, flowers, everything had like a vibration to it. I mean, it did hum. The light was very intense. The colors were so much more than kind of what I can see right now. Um, and it was an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful place where it's very difficult to explain, but the grass was very simple, almost like a basic diamond shape. Um, Crystals, the flowers were crystallic. They were very basic, but they shine so brightly. Everything hummed. It was like it had its own tune, its own frequency. But everything was working in conjunction with one another. It wasn't like one thing stood out from another, which I kind of found was pretty interesting. So, upon looking at myself, I was kind of like a jelly bean, but that jelly bean had a lot of facets on it, like quite like this particular stone, but a whole lot more facets and some color within. Looking at all the other, what I would say were people, they also had facets on them, different colors. Within, it wasn't a solid color, it was more of a swirling color. So mine in particular was more of an orangish, reddish um, color that I saw. And I was kind of walking next to other crystals, but I kind of started noticing that the people themselves had different number of facets on them, almost like, uh, let's go back to the game thing, where different levels of people. Nothing wrong with any of those. I definitely did not have the most, but I didn't have the least. So maybe that's a good thing. Uh, so with all those facets that I saw in myself, some were clean and some were dirty. Um, they were all over the place, kind of facing in different directions. Other than the overall jelly bean look, uh, it it was I had facets everywhere, but some spaces were just clear, but no actual facet to them yet. So there were places for more growth of more facets. And in saying that, I have a crystal here in particular. I'll show you again, but this is a amethyst crystal, and it has many, many different facets in itself. And then I kind of figure we're kind of like this, where this particular, like amethyst crystal in particular, I can break it apart and each individual piece will still be an amethyst, but as part of the whole, it's much more together amethyst. Um, and we are kind of like that. So we can take um, our thing. All right, so go back to the story. Sorry, I do have a hard time staying on track sometimes. It's just how it was. So in the story, I was walking along and it was time to come back to Earth. So I had to go and talk to, which I would say were some very enlightened crystals. They were much more like a disco ball. So they were much rounder and they had, I mean, facets that glowed. They just shined from within. Um, Kind of what I would particularly think about, like almost like a Jesus type person that emanated light from all directions. Just it was very clear. Like one of them in particular was clear. Another one kind of like a yellowish color, but they were a little bit more. The internal portions of them were like clearer than me. Uh, they You could see through them, but yet you couldn't because the light was so uh, intense coming from them. So they were kind of, I mean, it's not like it was a person, but they were like, "Yes, you can do that. No, that's not the thing to do. Yes, you can do that." So it was a very interesting experience to come back from. Now, in that past life regression, a lot of times, um, people that do them will have you talk to your higher self, but I was not able to get to that particular part. I don't think I was really allowed to get there yet. Still working on that part. So if you've ever had an experience or past life regression and you would like to share something of it, I would love to hear it. And I'm sure others would as well, because it's definitely an experience that for a while I didn't quite understand what it meant, but now it's making a lot more sense. So maybe you've made sense of yours. Um, we can only learn from what we know and what we experience. So kind of putting the information out to share it. So getting back to the amethyst. So this particular amethyst in particular, I think we're kind of like a plate of amethyst where you will grow. I still think that these crystals, now that we've taken them out of the ground and taken them out of their environment, they will stop growing and they're going to be what we see of this set of crystals as it is. So I'll show you again. But as you can see in this crystal, there's a number of them that look smashed and have dirt on them. And that was because where this crystal was growing was between two harder plates. So the growth continued to happen until it couldn't happen anymore because it was contained within an area. Even though it had the materials to continue to grow, it was no longer able to form. And in forming that, it looks what I would say, oh, some of these are ugly, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they're still amethyst. It, it is still a crystal inside. It still has all the properties of an amethyst. It just doesn't have the clean plates anymore. So if you wanted to, we could take these apart. We could process them with, a grinding wheel or whatever it is that jewelers use to make some of these pretty stones, and possibly get some other things out of it. But as a whole, it's still an amethyst and it's still useful. In particular, I find amethysts are they vibrate at a speed um, that resonates with me for clarity, knowledge. I would say power for projection, so that if you are to work with this particular stone and you have it with you, you might be able to couple with it to get your own clarity, get your own projection and power, and possibly some knowledge, or pull from the knowledge that you already know because you're coupling with it. might be a good stone to try to use. So, also, like this particular plate of amethyst, we are like that as well, where yes, we can take external stimuli and we can break it apart. We can smash it with a hammer. Sometimes that hammer might be like in relation to our own physical body. Like if we are this amethyst, which in a kind of a way we are, we can smash it apart with the way society works. You can have some addictions, you can have other things, and it will break this amethyst apart. And the amethyst itself, once broken, is still amethyst, but it's not the whole that it could be on its own. So, without that plate on the other side or the top of the amethyst, much more of these other crystals would have come out to be perfect. Like if you look within, I don't know if it's going to come up, but if you look within, there are many perfect smaller ones, but they were not faced with the adversity of another plate. So they continued to grow and they're pretty much perfect on the inside without having to do anything to them. However, the ones that started to grow much larger, they ran into difficulty and then they had to start bending or manipulating themselves to the point to where they couldn't grow anymore due to the situation or the environment that they were in. And much like this crystal, we are the same way. You can only grow so large within the environment that you're in. So sometimes it takes getting rid of some of the external stimuli around us in order to continue to grow if we want to. So some of those things that get us, I would go to say, I did take a bunch of notes from some of the thoughts coming through. So, but one quick second while I look through here. But some of those things that get us, I would have to say, is like our family, our relatives, our friends, the environment that we're in, things that we do, things that we could be addicted to, um, how well food that we eat, how well we take care of ourselves mentally and physically. So there's a lot of different things that we do. Um, the house that we're in, how much upkeep do we have? How many projects are we working on? How many things are we putting our energy out to? Does limit the fact of how much we can grow ourselves or how fast we can grow. Who knows how long it actually took to grow this crystal? People will say, "Oh, it took thousands of years for it to grow," but I think on the contrary, I think it happened rather quickly. But we only get to see it in a snapshot of time, and um, we try to make up something that makes our mind say, "Oh, well, this crystal took hundreds and hundreds of years or thousands of years to form." When in reality, it could have happened in mere moments. It just we only get to see a certain amount of time because we're only here for 100 years or so. Let's put 100 years out there. So I have another crystal, which is just a regular quartz crystal. And I think quartz crystal in particular, this one is kind of a milky quartz, but it's still beautiful just the same. Quartz in particular has an ability to help you with focus. And again, power and projection. So quartz is definitely a good stone to work with, and it's extremely common. It doesn't even have to be a crystal. It can just be a piece of quartz because the material itself radiates the power. Although we look at things and we'll say, "Oh, that's not pretty." Kind of like, I guess, what you can see on Instagram or TikTok. Somebody will project the one pretty part of themselves, either sometimes it's looks, sometimes it's their voice, sometimes it's their ability that they can do in particular. So we're looking at that one shiny part of them while the whole might not be perfectly clean. So in the case of this particular quartz, you can see that on the exterior there, it's all covered with, I'm believing, iron. Now I can take some chemicals or I could take some type of mechanical mechanism to rub that iron off, and I can bring the quartz out itself, which is kind of what we want to do for our own self. So how do we get our exterior to look like our interior? So I think that there are a number of methods to do that. Um, we'll start out with some of the basic ones. I think prayer helps. Prayer to whatever God or deity you would like to talk to, or just whoever. Just putting the prayer out there is a very light method of getting those exterior surfaces clean. So in saying that, meditation is pretty much the same thing, although I do find that meditation is more of the listening for the answers. Although I think that there's kind of two types of meditation. One, you have your meditation that takes you into nothingness and allows you to be, which is good. I think that one is probably more strong. And then you have your manifestation meditation. So you're meditating, but to get something else. So and if you overdo that one, that's more of a projection meditation. So another thing would be exercise of any type, walking, just moving the body, because that gets the body moving, the frequency within the body starts to move, and it is able to kind of clear itself. It's moving everything out. It's kind of like an engine in a car, where if you have a 600 horsepower engine in a car, but you let it sit in the shed for 10 years and you go out to start it, most likely you're going to have problems. You're going to have to get in there and do some work to it in order for you to get those 600 horsepower out. But exercise, even if you were to go fire it up, drive it around the block, you're not doing a race with it, but it's going to run a lot better if you do a little something with it occasionally. Now, is that engine made to just drive around the block? Not necessarily, but you're getting out, you're using it a little bit. So the more that you use it, the more you'll find uses for it, and then you're going to get to going with it. So some of these things, I might just be talking to myself in a video, but I'm hoping that you resonate with some of them as well. So within the exercise, you have yoga. Yoga is a form of exercise, but yoga also centers on the breathing. So a lot of exercise just might get you to breathe more, and that breathing is the process of getting energy in and getting energy out. Yoga is a more controlled version of it, especially for somebody that's kind of out of shape. Because I know that, if I go out and run 100 yards, I'm going to be breathing, but it's not very controlled. Sorry, but I will definitely be getting that energy out there. So breath work is not so much exercise, but it is the getting your energy in and out. And it gets your mind where you need to be. So I think that animals and plants are being around animals and plants. I enjoy talking to my plants. Since I talk to them, water them, take care of them, they do much better. And I feel much better. Even if they don't feel that they talk back, it's something I can see them growing. I see that they get the flowers on them. And they bloom much more when you're taking care of them than they do when you don't have any water whatsoever. And animals in particular are pretty much a very valid frequency unless they've been kind of manipulated by external sources to act in a particular nature. Then animals are very good. I mean, they'll come sit on your lap. Even my sister has a 160-pound dog that thinks it's a lap dog, but it's still very refreshing to pet them, and It's, you feel better after petting an animal. So some animals are wild animals. You might want to let those continue to be wild animals because they're not made for that. So I'm aiming more at the domesticated type. Some people like reptiles, lizards and snakes and things of that nature, which is cool. Fish, just having the fish around and watching them thrive, feeding them, that's pretty good. A couple other things once I change my page here. Um, but then sometimes I think we need to get uh, outside contractors to come in and help us with some of these things. Um, you can do some of these yourself. It can be good for you to work on these, and maybe you do these particular practices, but maybe you are called to help others with these particular practices. But like things like Reiki, um, cupping, massages, like reflexology, acupuncture, sound bowls, tuning forks, like emotion code healing, Akashic records readings, past life regressions. Um, those are things where you're kind of hiring a contractor. So I kind of view it as you have this land and you need to keep the land clean. Things grow in the land, or you have a bunch of small trees that grow up and you're not able to use it. So you hire that contractor with a big bulldozer to come in and clean those trees out. So some of the people that you would hire might just have a small little John Deere backhoe and they come in and they could knock a few things down. But some of the people are very skilled at what they do, and maybe they don't even realize it, but they're like a super powered Caterpillar bulldozer that can move, 20 tons of dirt at a time. And they're able to get the job done very well, very quickly. And it's worth the time for them. But uh, getting, you could go out there with a chainsaw on your own and, a wheelbarrow and an axe and just cut everything down. And it takes a while. But sometimes to get some of that heavy duty work done, you bring in somebody outside to be able to help you out. Um, so in saying that, sometimes it's worth shopping around to, I'm not saying shop around for like, oh, there's 10 people I'm going to pick, but you take the one that resonates with you, that you feel that you will be able to get the best effort out of. Not to say your mom doesn't do Reiki healing, but your mom might not be the best person to work on you with Reiki. So um, looking for somebody out there. Now, this is also saying that some of the people that do this work, they might need help as well. So um, just because they're a bulldozer at performing some of these, like sound bowl healing, they have the intention, they have the ability to direct that sound to do the work that it needs to do. Doesn't mean they don't have problems themselves. I know we all have our own little problems, but I'm not going to hire a bulldozer contractor to come and clean the kitchen when that's not going to work too well. So you do have to kind of focus in on what are you trying to do and what is the best way to get it done at the best economical way to get it done. So just a thought out there. So if you practice some of these or go to people that practice some of these things, what is it that you find works best for you? So on the cosmic scale of things, I come to find that I'm a wayfinder and a messenger. So in being such, I have to go and try all these things in order to be able to assist people to go to different places that might help them the most. I know in particular, I was working with tuning forks. I think it's Eileen McCusick was she has her program where you can use the tuning forks to clear the body of the emotional states or the emotional bubbles within the body field. And I was practicing it on a couple people, but to me, that particular practice, I do think it works. It does peel off little layers, But when I would try to work with somebody in particular, I would get overly hot. I started sweating. I don't believe that I was grounding all the energy out. So somewhere within me, it didn't resonate with me. Now, having it done to me by another practitioner worked out rather well, but for me to do it myself, that one didn't work so good. Um, I resonate with like the emotion code, body code healing. Um, that one works pretty well with me, but it's kind of like uh, you're picking each particular part, but you're sanding small layers at a time. Is that the best method? I do find that it's rather quick and it works good for me. Um, I've participated in a couple different Reiki sessions and I enjoyed them because it was relaxing, but I don't necessarily know if it helped as much as I thought that it would. Although it was nice and I met some wonderful people that do it, I do think that Reiki might be something that can be used on a much larger scale because I don't necessarily think you have to have one particular person sitting there doing or receiving the Reiki healing. That one I think might be able to work on a much larger scale. Sound bowls was interesting. Definitely had some skilled people working with the sound bowls, but I don't know if the intention was there. The sound and the bowls worked very well, but I don't know if the intention was directed. So, I mean, tell me what you've experienced or different methods. Sometimes the small intricacies might help us out in identifying something that would help with all that. One big thing that I really didn't mention, and it's anybody I think can have take advantage of it, is just being in nature. So being out in nature, the frequency of nature is quite neutral, and it will take a lot of your problems and just wash them right into the earth. I think it's a slow method, but also at the same time, it's very powerful to be able to go walk in nature, take your shoes off for a minute, put your feet on the ground, put your feet in the water. In saying that, you can also like have a fire, staring into a fire where you put your feet in the ground and just stare off into the fire and let it just burn all your bad energy away or energy that's not helping you away. Um, and then having crystals themselves, I think having crystals around helps out. Like, so if you want to, like I said, I think amethyst has a lot to do with knowledge and focus. So if you are needing to focus on something and you want to amplify your energy that you already have, grabbing an amethyst that resonates with you, because not all are the same, but having that with you or around you will help you in that manner. Quartz is pretty much an amplifier of all things, just the same as, like they say, obsidian or tourmaline can negate any kind of negative energy or lower frequency energy. So there's plenty of different stones out there. We can go over stones, crystals a little bit later, but getting with a stone that will help you with what you're already trying to do, it will just amplify or strengthen your purpose. So it's kind of like you taking that chainsaw out to clear your land, but now you are the one operating the backhoe because the crystal allows you to do more work with less effort. So um, I don't want this to be too long. So we'll get into kind of how I see pairing of crystals a little bit later in another video of how we interact with other people as crystalline beings. So at first, we want to focus on ourselves. So kind of going back to it, we are the multifaceted thistle. We are the multifaceted crystal. Quite like that plate of amethyst. I'll show you again. But this is us this is a physical kind of representation of us. We are one solid. Yes, we can be broken apart. Yes, we can be cleaned up, but as a whole, it really doesn't matter. Um, we are what we are, but we can let our brilliance shine, and we can grow much more when we take away some of the exterior factors, or we use some of the tools to clean up ourselves and actually get in line with what we are in particular. So we're not all the same, but we kind of work in the same way. So if any of this resonated with you, or you have any other ideas of different methods for cleaning up these crystals that we are, physical or mental exercises, let me know. Put it in the comments, and we will see what kind of information we can get. Because always looking for new ways to help other people, and I think when we bond together and take what we know and what we find, we'll definitely be able to get the right answer. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another video.